see you yet. She will be able to in a minute. So hold that commercial in in mind here.
Are we back on?
Now we are.
Well, I said today's show is brought to us by the blue and yellow can, the box set.
What's that?
The box set. Oh, I didn't mean to plug. I'm plugging them. They've been treating me good my entire life.
You squirting that on your knees and
I
rubbing
would
it.
never have had a bicycle that worked, or a blade that wasn't rusty, or
Good morning, Chuck. Good morning, Tina. Good morning,
or
Brenda.
or lawnmower blades that were like not rusted up and gross. And
You know, I'm sure there's a can of that sitting right here somewhere too. But I started using something new on my guns and everything. Hang on a minute, I'm trying to reach it back here.
well, Dad's using like a break free or something.
Well, I use this now.
Oh,
No.
I don't know that one.
Oh, well, you must know this. This has a very long history. This stuff is actually created by Germans pre-wars and all that, like in the 1800s to clean up like Muslim, black powder stuff.
Really?
Yeah, and it also had they also some I don't know exactly how. And don't quote me on this, so don't go drinking it or anything. But they also used it for some kind of healing medical use, like
Probably sprayed it in a wound or something.
Well, that's what I read somewhere. But anyway,
just rub a little dirt on it and spray that stuff. So do you know the WD-40?
Oh, I absolutely know the WD-40.
Well, but do you know what the WD-40 means?
Yeah, water displacement 40. It was
Formula 40.
Yeah, that's the formula they came up with, and the WD stands for water
displacement,
either dissipation or displacement. Something. It's supposed to move out. Yeah, what you said. Hey, good morning, Julie McCowan. Good to see you in this early on a Saturday morning.
Hey, Chuck. Good morning, everybody.
Anyway, I've been using Ballisto. I still use WD-40. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's some here. Lord help me, I couldn't get along without it.
Well, I got the irrigating ditch that's uphill from my house is full, and so my basement has quite a bit of water in it.
So can you spray the WD-40 down there and displace that water?
It rusts so I've got like some channel locks and things down there that I change out filters with.
Yeah,
and,
so you keep
when the water's in the basement, I get rusty tools. And I'm like, I went to look for the WD-40 and I found a can, and they've changed the heads of these things to that kind of silly spray. It's got a long tube, kind of a spray deal.
Flips up, it's built in.
Yeah, but I had a whole can and it wouldn't come out anymore.
Oh, you know what? I had a can did that too. What'd you do?
I ordered me a box set of new ones.
Why is it that those don't spray? I wonder, because I had one did the same exact thing.
I don't know why it won't. It's not compressing that, the end of the can, that white.
So you think it's not actually a
tube thing? I think it's just the top of the new spray nozzle isn't talking to the top of the tube. That's what I think.
Maybe that's it. I had one. I was so mad because I just bought it. I bet there might have been a box set for that too, but I had a can of that, and I'd put a couple in different places, I think. But I had one in my toolbox downstairs in the old place, and it was full. and it wouldn't
It
work.
wouldn't work.
It's like
That's
once, twice, and then it quit. Well, it
that's
did work a
that's
couple of
exactly
times.
what I had happen.
Well, see,
And
that
if they're listening,
yeah, if they're listening,
I would like them to go back to just the old little white round thing that they used to have, and it always you could run that can dry if you wanted to.
absolutely, yeah, we should complain about that.
We don't need a little red tube thing that sticks out there. We don't need that. We
I'm
need to
sure,
be able to get the product out of the can.
yeah, because it's no good if it's still in the can.
Yeah.
I am
Otherwise, you
sure
got to take your Leatherman tool and like punch a hole in it.
it's a hole in it and use the whole can right there in one place.
Exactly.
Because you can't unpack, you can't
Once you've punched it, she's done.
done. We should write them and complain about that. Not that it would get us
I
anywhere.
don't want to complain to them. I love their product.
Well,
I
so do
just
I. I mean,
I would just like to offer them some
good morning,
advice.
Dave.
Morning, Dave.
ID have joined us today.
What are we talking about today? Something cool, Musketeer Bear. Oh, we're talking about firearms, aren't
Well,
we?
we're going to talk about some early firearms. Nothing new and current.
Yeah.
So yeah, Musketeer. That's the Three Musketeers. That's where they actually got their name. Was because the Musketeers. Not we think of them fighting with rapiers and swords and toucheing each other, but they actually got the name because they were early soldiers who carried muskets also. But as we'll talk about a little bit, muskets and swords and bow and arrows actually all kind of worked together there for a while. I read a really interesting piece, and I'll talk about this in a minute, I'm sure. But where there were some people, John Smith, the famous John Smith, who came to America with the colonists and met Pocahontas and all that kind of stuff. That John Smith, he he actually said he preferred the bow. Well, I lost you, buddy. Okay, guys, and everybody else still see me? Could be I could maybe have done something on my end. Okay, but no Mark. Well, maybe he'll come back. I don't know where he went. That's kind of odd because usually he don't usually disappear that fast. Well, perhaps he'll come back. Morning, Chuck. Oh, that's just Diana's in the room. Good morning, Diana G. How are things in Canada this morning? Hopefully, your air is clearer than it has been, and maybe it's not so terribly hot up there. It's going to be pretty terribly hot here, I'm afraid. It was. I stepped out on the library porch yesterday to do something for just a few minutes, and good Lord. And the sun had shifted. It was already this way. So I was kind of in the shade. And oh my God, it was still so hot. In the 90s. I didn't look to see exactly what part of the 90s. I didn't really want to know, to be honest. Once it gets above that, I just about assume not here. So what's everybody else been in? Dave, what have you got going on these days currently? Yes, the smoke seems to be gone. It's gorgeous. Oh, you had smoke too, Tina. I didn't realize that. Well, I mean, I don't doubt that. I didn't realize it had gotten that bad down there. I knew that there were parts of Manitoba up near where Mike and Diana live that they had even, I think, considered um, what is the correct word here, folks? Words. This show's all about words, and I can't find them. Evacuating some areas because the smoke was really, really that bad. Oh, it's bad. She's got it. Well, Tina, you might look forward to it getting bad down your way again too, then, because it's probably headed that direction. The way the prevailing winds blow, I'd say you get a fair bit of weather from up there. Wild Adventure video coming out. Then first visit to Epic HHN. Is that haunted? Is that the Universal Haunted House thing? Or am I mistaken? Evacuating because of the fires. Okay, it wasn't just because of the smoke got so bad. I guess that wouldn't matter. I guess if you can't breathe with the smoke, you just leave on your own. But yes, it all comes across the north. Last year it went down to North Carolina. Yeah, it's been here before. I don't know about I don't know if we got. Well, yeah, like we did get some out of Canada, but we've also when California, parts of Colorado, all those Wyoming, maybe those areas when they were burning really bad a couple of years ago. Um, we had a lot of smoke from there hovering around. Chris loves it. Well, I see a lot of people go there, and honestly, it looks like it's probably a lot of fun. We've never been to Universal, much less the haunted house night or whatever. That's not what it's called. It's something horror, isn't it? Horror nights, or I don't know. Like I said, I've never been there. I can't remember. I just know a lot of people that there's quite a few Disney people that also go down there and do live streams or vlogs. They don't. I guess they don't allow live streaming from inside the houses, or at least not some of them. I think a year or so ago they started letting some in, but you can't do them all. Brenda would love it, Dave. She's her and Chris ought to get together and go because I firmly believe she would absolutely eat that up. In fact, Brenda, do you know what we're even talking about? Because if you don't, you ought to look that up. Universal's Hollywood Horror Nights. Okay, thank you, Chuck. See, I didn't realize it was Hollywood Horror Nights. I thought it was something else altogether. And I'm not sure where my brother's gone. I'm gonna see if I can contact him via the old phone, and probably not. Since he popped off, I bet something quit. Hey, Carol, welcome in. So, how was your trip? I assume that you being on here means that you have returned home. What did you think of Charlotte? Now, you're not late. Mark's not here. Mark's not back. Mark was actually here, and then boop, he disappeared. I don't know if I magically cast a spell and disappeared him, or if something else is going on. Because if I did it, I don't know how to fix it. I swear I thought it was working okay. Okay, I have a question for everybody since we're waiting to see if Mark's going to come back. What's the video quality look like? There he comes. Welcome back, my brother. Welcome back.
I have no idea what happened.
Well, neither do I, because that was one of the quickest exits you've ever made.
I have no idea what happened. My interweb turned off, and
poof.
You pixel. You didn't pixelate. You disappeared, and then I was just gone.
Well, usually when you
I couldn't get my interweb back on, so I was. Yeah, I apologize.
No, that's okay. Usually you freeze and then you disappear. If you do, this time you just boom, you just vanished.
I was just gone. So did you. So were you.
Well, yeah, but see, but I stayed on. Yeah, I just disappeared at your house.
We have a fire weather warning.
Who said that? You? You guys do?
We do.
Well, that's not good.
No, but it looks like it's going to rain, so I don't know what in the world is going on with my. Quit it.
What's going on?
Stuff's popping up I didn't want on there.
Well, that happens. That happens to me all the time.
Well, I just didn't. It's of no value. Good morning, Miss Carol. Good morning,
Miss
Diana.
Carol just returned home from her. She was on a journey.
If anybody I didn't say hey to, hey.
I just spilled coffee.
We got Bluegrass Festival. Well, it used to be a Bluegrass Festival. Now it's
not anymore.
turned into more of a I don't even know what to call it anymore.
Well, it's a folky music festival. Probably got some rock and roll and everything else there now, isn't it?
Yeah, there's stuff that I couldn't give a rat's about.
Yeah.
And every now and again, they have the occasional band that I'd like to listen to, but it's getting more occasional than it used to be.
Less and less.
And my bride's family has always been all the kids and Shauna have been involved in it since it started.
Yeah. And one of your boys, somebody there used to.
And my oldest grandson, or my oldest son-in-law ran the darn thing for the last 5 or 6 years, and he told him this year, I will spend a year with you guys in transition, but I'm done being president.
This is it.
And they just kicked him out like, well, you're persona non grata. And they're regretting that now.
Yeah, I bet they are. That's what usually happens. When you get somebody that's done it for that long and they step down, it's usually a problem.
Yeah.
That's just what nature.
He offered them an entire year to help transition.
Oh, and they turned. Oh, wait a minute, I missed something. So they turned him down.
Oh yeah. They're like, no, we got this.
They'll regret that.
And there's people from the west of us that are running it now.
Oh,
and they don't know how to sell beer.
That's bad. You can sell beer. If you don't know how to sell beer, you're in trouble.
They're not allowed to.
You can't. They're not allowed to.
No. So they are relying on the people that have run it for the last 25 years to sell beer and stuff, including my wife. So
why are they not allowed to?
Because it ain't okay. Joseph would be very disappointed with them.
Those people.
I told you the people from the west of me here.
Well, okay, but you didn't.
I was trying not to poke anybody in the eye.
I got you. And I understand now.
But the people that come to this thing are by God going to drink some beer.
Oh, I promise you that. That's going to happen.
And use other substances that are likely illegal in Wyoming. So
yeah, well,
I walked by a group of guys last year. They had all dreadlocked up, and I walked by them. I was with my buddy that just passed away, and I said, I smell burning baling twine.
Does smell a lot like that.
and he goes, yep, that's exactly what you smelled.
Not that I've ever smelled
burning baling twine.
Yeah,
I hated the smell. I hate that smell because I used to have to do it a lot. I hate it. And I'm like, why would you intentionally put that in your body?
Hi, Debbie Burnfeld. Welcome in. Good to see you here. I believe Debbie might. I don't know. Are you new to this morning show? See Debbie a lot in other people's on live streams and stuff.
Well,
Mike, welcome in.
I hope she has joined us to chase squirrels.
She might have. Did I show you guys? I don't think I think I forgot last week. Let me see it real quick before I get into my other stuff here. I had a picture that I had something I wanted to show you guys that I thought was so apropos. Like that word.
Oh,
apropos. Okay, where did I put those pictures?
I don't know.
I know you don't know, but I know. Well, I don't know. I thought I knew. I think I might have showed it to you, but I meant to show it to the class, and I think I forgot before. To the class. Do you like that? I just threw that out.
I would like you to write a theme.
A theme. What I want for Christmas. Now pay particular attention
shot carbine action air rifle with a compass in the stock, and this thing that tells time.
Tells time. This thing that tells time. Okay, here it is. I've kind of been collecting these things for several years. I don't have a lot of them, but several years, and I just happened to notice yesterday or the other day when I was taking these pictures that I have one that actually has special meaning. Not special, but it's special to this show because not only is it a bear, but look what he's got in his hand. Well, just in case you can't see it, that's a squirrel. The squirrel's holding a ball or something.
That was a cool effect.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's because I got something turned on over here. I need.
No, that's cool.
Well, yeah,
but you can point out exactly where the squirrel is. That's
true. But what that is I'm learning how to remove backgrounds in items and pictures I don't want. So I had it turned on. And you'll see in my show today that's something I've been working on. Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But you'll see. Maybe next week I'll have it figured out to do more better.
What did you show me that bear holding last time?
Oh, well, I've got the one with the bear holding the nickel.
That's it. That was it. The buffalo head.
Background. Let me see if I can.
The Indian head nickel you had.
Yeah, I don't know if I can open that from right here or not. I might be able to. Yeah, there he is.
Oh, that's such a buffalo nickel.
That's such a cool nickel. Brenda's just so excited about that nickel. She just knows that we're going to be millionaires soon. And there's the other side of it. It's a 1936 Indian head or Liberty nickel. I've heard it called both, actually.
That's my favorite coinage ever.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's got a bison on one side and a Indian man on the other side.
Yeah.
He was a Lakota elder, as I recall, that they
that
used as the model.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that.
And then they kind of used that with the Washington Redskins. And white people decided that wasn't fair to call people Redskins. But
well, I think we could.
Most of the native people I know say we sure would like to see that be the Washington Redskins again.
Yeah, somebody's trying to make it that, but I don't want to go there today. This is, yeah,
that's quite the menagerie right there,
well,
buddy.
that's three of my bears there. And if you look, the one that's holding the nickel on his nose, which happens to be a very talented bear, he's sitting there looking at his computer. So I think that's a very, again, pro bear for me to have. I wish my computer looked like that. How long did you have to pose for that sculpture, Tim? Oh, that's very funny, Carol. It took a while. I used to do a lot of hiking and stuff, so there's a hiking bear, and this bear that's got the squirrel. I just thought that was when I realized I had a bear that called a squirrel. I just thought, no, that is really cool. that fits. So there you go.
Oh anyway, my goodness.
If I missed, let's see if I missed anybody else. Yeah, Brenda helped Carol. She took the pictures and you know, probably fed me something and made me sleep. Some magic potion.
Fed you.
Well, Debbie Burn. I appreciate you coming in this morning. It's early show, and I know sometimes that's hard for folk, but I sure am glad to see you here. What did you say?
I just think it's hilarious that you said your wife fed you something, some sort of potion.
Sort of. It made me.
Now, where's Debbie located?
I'm not sure where she's located. Debbie, what part of the country are you located in? You don't have to tell us exactly, just the state.
You said it was really early.
Well, I mean, for some people, 10 o'clock in the morning is really early.
Yeah, I guess.
I used to have people that I knew that say, "Oh, your show's on too early," and I'm like, "Early? This is not really early to me."
You don't start till 10.
Yeah, Eastern time, which is not very early.
And I'm on at 8.
Well, Debbie's the same time as we are, so.
And so she's on at 10, and poor Francisco.
Yeah, he's
got to start at 7.
Yeah.
And didn't we have somebody from Hawaii?
Yeah, Elena. I haven't seen her lately, but
that is way too early.
Yeah, that's like, what are they, 6 hours? I think. Is it 6?
Probably.
I don't know. They're 4 or 5 hours earlier than us. I can't remember. Well, even California. Michelle comes in once in a while. She's in California, so that's 3 hours. So,
yeah.
I mean, even that makes it kind of early on a Saturday. A lot of people don't, I used to sleep. No, that's not true. I started saying even I used to sleep.
You never used to sleep.
I never did that.
We were out catching turtles by then, buddy.
Well, that's true. Yeah, she stays up to watch. Oh, Elena. Yeah, she did, Tina. That's true. She stayed up to watch us. Which which I really appreciate. I'll be honest. Most people wouldn't do that. I hear Wolfgang.
Yeah. If my son's father-in-law is here, I'm going to be not a
Peter.
I'm going to be not
Peter. Are you referring to Peter or someone else? Oh, he's gone. Okay. Well, we'll find out if he's going to be occupied or not. She is 6 hours early. I thought she was, Tina. I can remember trying to watch something out there on TV, and I don't remember what it was, but I remember then I figured out it was. No, I remember what it was back sometime in the past when people were trying to say how early they had to get up to watch like a football game, like the Super Bowl back at one time when they used to be on in the daytime.
Good morning, John.
So John, good morning, Surf Bum. So who was it?
So my wife has procured a new conveyance.
Yes, I knew that.
And it doesn't look like the old conveyance. So every now and again, the dogs just look outside and say, "There's
Oh,
somebody in the driveway,"
and they look suspicious.
and it looks like a hitman mobile. I think that's what we were calling it. It's a black Jeep, but
All blacked out.
it's the big Escalade kind of deal.
Is it really as big as an Escalade? I know they're
No,
pretty good
I
size.
don't know. I don't even know what the model is.
Yeah, I looked it up.
It's got 3 rows of seats.
Right.
Because she needed it so we didn't have to throw them in the bed of the pickup truck, the grandbabies.
Well, what's wrong with that?
I don't know. I think that's a perfectly good way of using grandchildren. But anyway, she bought this.
And pickup truck beds, for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, you can put like a dozen of them in there.
Yeah, you can. And I've been in them.
And you can drive 80 miles an hour down the highway, and they still survive.
They won't fly.
Sometimes.
Generally speaking, they don't fly out.
Although I've got one that I'm awful worried about. I can't. He doesn't think sometimes, and so and it's a he.
Oh yeah. I could tell a story about myself. Maybe I shouldn't do that.
But we didn't have traffic like we got now. Well, we don't have traffic.
Well, Tina, I mean, I'm gonna guess you've been in the bed of a pickup truck. Maybe you haven't, but I'll tell you something. If you grew up south of the border or the Mason-Dixon line, or you grew up in the Appalachian Mountains, I guarantee you've ridden in the bed of a pickup truck.
Well, and she grew up on the north end. I bet she did.
Well, I'm thinking so too, but I guarantee you that
yes, she has.
Yeah, I thought so. I've ridden in the back of many truck beds.
My father and uncle used to drive down the dirt roads where kind of I grew up, trying to rake us off with tree branches.
Oh, great! That's fun. I've ridden ponies that would do that. I've never.
Dale, in particular, was infamous for, like, he wasn't driving that fast. It was only like 50 to 70 miles an hour.
50 to 70. He's not really lying. I've ridden with his father.
And he wasn't right in the head ever. Even before he went to Vietnam, he was not right in the head.
What is John saying? It's 42 again. Oh, out your way.
Degrees?
Probably.
Right now it's 50. Hold on.
John, have you watched any of, I've been thinking about you this week because I've been watching the Cheyenne Rodeo. And
53 degrees, John.
Warmed up a lot then. And they talk about F.E. Warren quite a bit because there's always somebody there. And you got to tell me something, John. This is confusing me to no end. And I've lost, believe it or not, I probably lost sleep over this. Tina said her dad used to say it's no fun if you're not hanging on for dear life. He's not at a point. I got a question, John. They at the rodeo out there. I think you yourself had mentioned that you used to go to the rodeo through some activity that the base did with them. Still
do.
Yeah, I know. But John and I've talked about it, that's all I'm getting at. But what I can't figure out is why and how come they have an artillery unit there with its Air Force. I didn't know Air Force had, because they talk about that. They fire a cannon every day when that rodeo starts, and every day they say this is the artillery unit or the cannon group at F.E. Warren Air Force Base. Now, why do they have an artillery unit? Is that just for
Is
them?
it an army? Is it an army unit that's attached, or is it Air
Well,
Force?
they don't say that. It's an Air Force base, but you know that.
Yeah, but
No,
I've seen all flavors of military people there: Marines,
well,
Navy.
sure. But I mean, it just seems odd that no, that it may be an army. That's what I wondered if
It's
it was
an
army.
Air National Guard, so it's my buddy's unit that I went to his retirement ceremony 2 years ago, and then
Hold
one
that
of
thought.
our best friends just got promoted to command. Well, I don't know what you call them in the Air Force. I would call him a command sergeant major in the Marine Corps, but they're a chief master sergeant, I think. He's the highest rate you can get in the
Air Force
as
and
an as an enlisted guy,
enlisted man. I mean, yeah,
and
NCO.
he's currently stationed in at Gitmo in
Oh, lovely.
in Cuba. He and
Which is
his wife just moved down there.
and Gitmo is a Navy or Marine base, isn't it? Or not?
Well, yeah, it's everything.
Or it's just I guess it's just U.S. military. So John, what you're telling me is it's an Air National Guard unit and an Army National Guard unit. Is is regular Air Force not there now? Is it just guard base?
There's plenty of regular Air Force there.
Okay. E9 Master Chief, John said.
Master Chief. That's what my buddy Christian became. Well, I went to his ceremony for his promotion,
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
and
Yeah.
he gave me coin number 6, and
Oh really?
I'm the only civilian that got a coin, and he gave me coin number 6.
Impressive.
My buddy Crickmore, who retired from that same outfit, he got number 1.
John, that's what I thought it was, because that's why you were out there, but I wasn't sure. Some of that, so much of that has changed. I mean, we used to live, and when I lived near Nashville, worked in Nashville, we lived in Smyrna, and Smyrna has a huge airport there in a little bitty town, but it's because it used to be an Air Force base, and then they converted it to just general aviation and an Air Guard unit. Army Guard because it's helicopters, probably an air cav unit, I guess. And I'm not sure if Air Force still has a presence there or not. They might. There may be an Air Force
And
Guard.
that's the airport you worked on, wasn't it?
No, I worked at Nashville.
Oh yeah,
Nashville Airport. This is Smyrna Airport, which used to
right.
be Stewart Air Force Base, named after the creek, or the creek was named after it. I'm not sure which. Thinking of that.
John's daddy was a master chief in the Navy.
John, I'm still trying to figure out what my dad was. He was a drill master sergeant, or a staff sergeant, but I don't know at what level. Probably not anywhere near. I mean, he was brought up out of the guard.
Well, master chief's an E9.
Right, that's an E9, but Dad was just a staff sergeant. I don't know.
My dad was a staff sergeant too.
Yeah, but your dad had made he'd made
but that's only an E6, I think.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think when you get to 7, you're a gunnery sergeant.
Well, isn't that what your dad was going to be if he'd stayed in?
Yeah, he was. They were like grooming him. Like they took him to Hawaii after they rotated home, and the gunnies all had him in a bundle. Like you're going to be one of us real quick. And
trickery.
And Dad told Mom if he survived his second tour, he would get out of the Marine Corps and help raise the children.
So that's what happened.
And that's what happened.
Okay, guys, I'm going to open up my show. Now, I'm going to use some notes, so I may not be able to see the chat. So, Mark, feel free to speak up if you see something that I'm not saying, or let me see if I can make
I
this.
will. I'm gonna check on something real quick. You go. You go.
I'm going to
And
get started
I'll
while
be
you're.
right back.
All right. All right. I'm going to open this up, try to. And I'll probably lose this and mess it all up again. But I want to use my notes. I've got some things I'm trying to. There we go. Now, what did I do with that? It's what happened last time. I lost it. Oh, there I am. Okay. All right. I'm going to try to keep up with. I'm going to look. I think I can see the chat and my notes. Good deal. I'm not sure I'll be able to keep up either way because I'm not that coordinated. But anyway, so as usual, we're going to talk something a little different today. I've kind of put this off for a lot of reasons, but I've always wanted to kind of talk about it because it has one muzzle loading rifles and muzzle loading as a hobby and all the things that historical type things that go with it is one of the biggest reasons I met Mark originally because his dad had opened up a small shop in Jonesboro, the town I lived in, and I was thrilled because I'd always wanted to have a muzzle loading or like a Kentucky rifle, as we thought called everything back then. And finally, and I was, of course, you guys know I was nuts for history. I finally found somebody else that was interested in history, so I used to hang out down there probably more than he liked. But
You
anyway,
loved it. You were in that shop all the time.
man, I never had any. I was thought I was
You
in heaven.
you were immediately adopted, buddy.
It was like being in heaven to me. I just thought, oh my God, I finally found my people. Because my mom always told me, son, you were born 200 years too late. And I found some other people that were kind of like that. So I thought, wow, here is where I ought to be.
This is where I belong.
So anyway, we're going to talk about that a little bit and how that affected North America. Not any political crap. I'm just talking about how that changed the whole, um, just how things were done here. Because the natives didn't have firearms; they had bows and other weapons, blowguns and bow arrows and stone
Thomas
hawk, flint.
Thomas Thomas
Tomahawk, sir. Here's your tomahawk, sir. You call everything. Well, yeah, Tina. I mean,
That's my favorite. I'll just call it an LT. That's my absolute favorite LT of all times.
yeah,
It's called the Oily American.
the oily American. That's right. Tina,
Wait,
what I
let
about
me
that?
smell Mohican burning.
Must be me last Mohican.
Must be me.
Tina, what I meant by that was anything that was a black powder muzzle loading rifle. I mean, we didn't know. I didn't know all the differences and everything.
And most of them were actually made in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, right. Most of them are made in Pennsylvania, which is everybody says, "Oh, that's a Kentucky rifle," and well, actually, it's made in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, or something. But anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit too. But yeah, I mean, everything to me was a long Kentucky long rifle at that time. Now, I had read a lot, but I didn't read the right books apparently. I mean, the books I read talked about all that stuff, but they didn't go into details about differences in rifles, and which was just neglectful on somebody's part. John said Air Force is E7 Master Sergeant and E9 is a Chief Master Sergeant. Hard to think type with all the tomato sauce on my finger. John, what are you making? If you're doing tomato sauce, you're cooking. You're making some. I know you make some kind of special homemade sauce. You've told us that before. Anyway, so yeah, I just I thought again, this is partly because what did I grow up seeing on TV and things. Daniel Boone, Davy Crockett.
And they were twin brothers, you know.
They were twin brothers. Those guys thought
Who some dumb young man thought that they were twin brothers, and he would be talking to you right now.
Yeah. Well, it made sense. It makes sense to me too. Anyway, I thought, well, that's the most accurate thing in the world. We should still be using those because those guys never missed. And but anyway, I grew up and learned a lot more about them, and that's why I was so thrilled to meet Mark's dad and Ray Vitito. And Mark was still much younger man, and anyway, it changed my life. I'll tell you that. I think pointed me in the right direction, to be honest. Anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about history, and that again, we're talking history here. So do all the homework stuff, guys. Hit that subscribe button, please, or hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, please do, and leave a comment. I still don't get any comments much, but you're certainly welcome to it. And they don't even have to be polite comments. I don't care. I'm pretty thick-skinned in that regard, or have become so. And we're still shooting rabbits. A week or two of daily practice and good rabbit cover will get you well up towards successful shooting at the game.
Morris Thompson.
I
apologize for jumping in and out, but I've been looking for horses all morning, and my daughter just finally found them. So they're here.
Okay, everything's okay there. You don't got to go.
Yeah, good. It's all golden.
Okay. July 26th. That's today. I hope I got that right. Sometimes I'm off a day. 207th day of this year, except in leap years, according to the Gregorian calendar. 158 days remain until the end of the year, which means there's 151 days until Christmas. I believe my math.
I just got that from a buddy of mine the other day.
Oh, really?
It's only this many weeks till Christmas.
Believe me, I wasn't really thinking that way till I put that on there. This day, in 1758, the French and Indian War, the siege of Louisbourg ends, and British forces defeated the French and basically took control of the Gulf of St. Lawrence, which, if you think about it, pretty much shut the French off in those days because everything came to them by ship from France.
And then they built stuff that let sea lampreys into the Great Lakes.
We can probably blame the British for that too.
Bombies.
In 1775, the office that would later become the United States Post Office Department is established by the Second Continental Congress. Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania took the office as Postmaster General. Think about it a minute, guys. That makes this the 250th anniversary of the post office. John, congratulations, babe. Thanks for your service in the military and delivering mail, because John was a postal person.
Absolutely.
Which is, I think, just great. I mean, so I bet you're going somewhere to have a big giant birthday celebration for the post office, aren't you? Somehow I'm thinking maybe not, but that could happen.
I hope it happens.
Oh, John's making rigatoni, eggplant parmesan, tomato caprese, antipasta, garlic bread, and fruit salad. Kids are coming over. Well, how about if you let us come over?
Yeah, we'll come celebrate the Postal Service with you, buddy.
Yeah, we'll eat all that good food. And
some of that stuff, I don't even know what the heck it is, but it sounds good.
If John's making it, I'm sure it's good.
And he's now a chef.
Now what? Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, that works too. 1788, New York ratified the United States Constitution and becomes the 11th official state of the United States of America. So there you
Seriously.
go. Thank you. Yep, on this day.
New York.
1788.
There you go, Tina.
I don't know who the last couple were. 12 and 13. I'm not sure who they were. I didn't look that up.
And here's a guy that's near and dear to my heart.
George B. McClellan. Yes, he assumed command of the Army of the Potomac following a disastrous Union defeat at the First Battle of Bull Run. And then there was another disastrous Battle of Bull Run, but that's another story. Yeah, you like George B. McClellan.
I just like him because he invented a saddle that I really like to ride.
Yeah. The McClellan saddle, which was still used today on military Army horses, if I'm not mistaken.
It is. So if you're like a president that's going to be buried, there are going to be horses in tow with your carriage that have McClellan saddles on them.
Correct.
Still today.
John said the U.S. Post Office in D.C. is having a big public event today at the post office for post office birthday. Well, good. I'm glad they still get to do that. That's
250 years.
250th anniversary. Think about it. 1775 was when it was officially created.
They were born the same year the Marine Corps was born.
Well, how about that? Maybe that's how the Marine Corps found out. They got a letter from the post office.
They were both sitting in Ton Tavern drinking at the bar.
That could be. You guys invent a service and we'll send you the mail. How about that? 1863 on this date, and during the American Civil War, Morgan's raid, famous raid. Morgan was John Hunt Morgan was a cavalry captain / marauder type guy in the Confederate Army. He raided Salineville. I'm not sure how they say it.
He raided Jackson.
Well, yeah, but Salineville or whatever, how you guys call it, or they did, was the furthest north that the South ever
got.
And they were captured up there. 360 of his volunteers, and these were all cavalry guys, were captured by the Union. And the raid began here in Tennessee, so there's a connection there. See what I did there? See the connection? Anyway, and then later, I'm not sure when, but Hunt or Morgan escaped. And there's this whole story about how he got snuck back down in and got over the Ohio River and got back to the South. But I was just listening to a story about that on my audio book by Mr. Foote recently. I'm in the third book of that series, and in the book, if you ever listen to audio books, guys, you know what I'm talking about. But it gives the length of the book in hours and minutes, and that book is like, I don't know, 58 hours long or something.
Seriously?
I don't remember the exact number, but I was surprised. I thought I could probably read it in less than that, but probably not. I tend to back up when I'm reading history. I tend to read it and back up.
The book is this thick.
Yes, it is. Well,
it's like 8 Alan Eckert books stacked together.
Anyway, that's what I'm listening to the last one now. In 1948, U.S. President Harry S. Truman signed the Executive Order 9981, which desegregated the military of the United States. I don't know why, but I thought that was important to throw in there right now. I just did. Anyway, those are all things that happened today, and well, these are all in America, so there you go. Births and deaths on this day include, first guy put up there in 1796, George Catlin, American painter, author, and traveler, was born on this day, Mark.
And died in 1872.
Yep, he sure did. So he lived to be fairly old. I put this guy in here for a reason. 1875, Carl Jung, Swiss psychiatrist and psychotherapist, was born. I didn't realize it, but he didn't die till late 1961. The reason I put him in there was seems to me like Sidney, the shrink on MASH, and somebody else on
always talked about young
yeah.
in theory or young.
So I saw that and I thought, Mark will get this. I'll put this in here. And I love this next guy.
And I always wondered why his Jungian theory was spelled with a J.
It's because he's Swiss. And no, who knows? 1892, Sad Sam Jones, an American baseball player and a manager. He was a pitcher and he also played the outfield, I believe, was born. And Sad Sam got his name. I have to put this in there because I wrote this down. Sad Sam, Samuel Pond was his his official middle name. Samuel Pond, Sad Sam Jones, was born on this date in 1892, and he died in 66. He was a professional baseball pitcher who played in the Major League Baseball with the Cleveland Indians, the Boston Red Sox, the New York Yankees, the St. Louis Browns, the Washington Senators, and the Chicago White Sox. Now, that might have been why he was sad. He got moved around. Between 1914 and 19.
He played like for every team.
Yeah.
In the league.
He batted and threw right-handed. His sharp breaking curveball also earned him the nickname Horsewhip Sam. I thought that was a great nickname. Much better than Sad.
Speaking of Horsewhip Sam, have you seen that Sanchez kid that plays for the Phillies?
I think so.
He's pitching for the Phillies. Big, tall, lean, drink of water. Man, when he pitches, his whole body looks like it just comes discombobulated. And he's pitched three this year. No hitters.
Oh, wow.
All 9 innings, not just like 7.
Oh, all 9. Full games. That's excellent. I need to watch for him.
He's a spooky dude. he's a and I don't like the Phillies, but I like that kid.
Yeah. Well, Sad Sam got his nickname because Bill McGahan of the New York Herald Tribune dubbed him Sad Sam because to him, Jones always looked downcast on the field. But Jones said that the reason he looked downcast was because he kept his hat low. He said, I always wore my hat down low, real low over my eyes. And the sports writers were more used to fellas like what this is Sam talking now.
That we're doing this.
White Hoyt, who'd always wear their caps up so they could see, didn't miss the pretty girls. That's his story, not mine. He said that.
Yes.
Okay, let's see who was next. Estes Kefauver, have a connection here too. American lawyer and politician, was born on this day in 1903. Estes Kefauver was from Tennessee. And he was also, remember, he was a Democrat. He served in the U.S. House of Representatives from 39 to 49. And he was a big proponent of Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal and especially the Tennessee Valley Authority.
Cool.
Who kept me gainfully employed for 20-something years. So I had to put that in there. And he was also famous for fighting another politician that was in Memphis. E.H. Crump was his name. And he was, like Chicago and New York, you hear about Tammany Hall and different groups in Chicago. Well, E.H. Crump was that guy in Memphis, Tennessee. He kind of ran the whole political everything in Tennessee for years.
Was he the guy that started the whole like veterans war on? Where did we talk about?
Yeah, Athens, Tennessee. Yeah, I believe he was. I believe he was the head of that.
I think he started the whole.
Yeah, he's the one that was in charge of the political group that caused that whole thing to happen. And the veterans said, hell no, you ain't gonna do that to us.
And they did.
Came in 5.
And they were successful.
So anyway, that was Estes Kefauver. Now I got more notes on him than that, but I'm not going to read any more of it. And then the last one I got on here is really important. Really, really important. Gene Shepard was born today in 1921. He was an American radio host, actor, and screenwriter. And guess what he wrote? The Christmas Story. Ralphie is an adult. This is a quote from his story. He said, "Next to me in the blackness lay my oil blue steel beauty, the greatest Christmas gift I had ever received or would ever receive. Gradually, I drifted off to sleep, pranging ducks on the wing and getting off spectacular hip shots."
My blue steel beauty.
And Gene Shepard was the guy who narrates that movie. That movie was created before he passed away, and Gene Shepard is the guy you hear, the voice you hear throughout the movie is the adult Ralphie. And his name was Parker, as you can see. So he used that name as Ralphie's last name, the family's last name. Brenda, I also wanted you to know, I don't know if you realize.
If you want to read the book, the Christmas Story is one chapter.
Yeah, right. It's
full of all kinds of fantastic other chapters. And
let me ask you this:
it's called "In God We Trust. All others must pay cash."
Yeah,
that's the name of the book.
Well, Brenda always liked another movie that I didn't realize he had done. Although I think she and I've talked about it, thinking surely he did, but I never looked it up. And that was Ollie Hopnoodle's Haven of Bliss, which was about a kid who his favorite memory was the summer they all went to Ollie Hopnoodle's on the lake somewhere in the north, Minnesota or somewhere, where they were at a fishing camp and spent their vacation up there. And that Ollie Hopnoodle's Haven of Bliss. I've only seen that movie once or twice. Have you seen that one, Mark?
I have not.
Well, Brenda used to love that movie, and she used to talk about it. But Brenda, if you're still on here, I hope you know what I'm talking about. He scares the hitters and distracts them so much they can't hit the ball. I'm guessing you're talking about the pitcher for Philly. Is the other Dave here? No, that's
what we're saying.
Huh?
Oh, we're talking about Sanchez?
Yeah, I think that's who Tina's talking about.
He's a spooky dude, man. He throws a fastball like you wouldn't believe.
Yes, Tina, that is the closing line of the Christmas Story.
He's about 8'7" tall. He's just he's about as big around as a pencil, and he's giant. He was like next to a little sportscaster the other day, and I'm like, he's at least 12 inches taller than that guy.
So he is a really tall guy.
He's a very tall man. He's probably tall. He's probably as tall as Aaron Judge.
Oh,
wow.
But
he's a whip. He's just a pretty thin dude, kind of like Dad used to be. Just like pretty thin. And he can. My gosh, can he pitch a ball? Good golly. And they just sail across the plate.
So anyway, now
I don't brag on baseball players very often, but he's a really cool dude.
But that was one of my favorite lines from the Christmas Story, so I thought I'd just throw that in there at the end of that part. Because there was a lot of other really good quotes from that movie. Such
as on the wing, getting us spectacular
hip shots. I love the part where he's imagining fighting off all the
bandit guys. One of them's like a cowboy, and the rest of them all look like they just got out of prison.
And he's knocking them off right and left, and there's like, he's a dead eye.
And they've got X's on their eyes.
Yeah. What a great movie. What a great movie. And if you don't know, please God tell me.
Good morning, Ian.
Tina or Ian, good morning. Tina, I saw TDN and I almost called you Tina. Hi, Ian. Welcome, buddy. Good to see you, as always. So anyway, moving right along. Look, we're going to talk about early firearms.
We're going to talk about blue steel beauties.
Blue steel beauties. That's
or
right.
Brown steel.
And just kind of how they. I'm not getting into modern history. I'm not getting into anything about today and guns or any of that. All I just want to talk about is the fact that they made a huge impact when they came to North America, and then they started changing over the years,
and to Europe for that matter.
Yeah, oh yeah, but yeah, absolutely. So the earliest firearms, give or take, more or less started in the 15th century, they think, and those were usually things like matchlocks and hand cannons. And archaeologists believe the Spanish were among the first Europeans to introduce firearms to the Americas. I don't know who else it would have been if it hadn't have been the Spaniards. I don't think the Vikings, who I do absolutely believe got here first.
But they didn't have firearms.
They didn't have firearms yet. I'm quite sure if they'd had them, they'd have used them, though.
Oh, you bet. They would have.
Was it years? I don't know if it was your dad or somebody I used to work with. Anytime you'd say something about, well, they didn't have that back then, and they'd say, by God, if they had them, they'd have used them. Your dad or somebody else.
That was probably Dale.
It might have been Dale. Anyway,
it was. I'm sure it was. It was Les.
It was who?
Les. That works for Dad.
Oh.
I'm sure it was Les that said that. Yeah, Dad's like, they only had flintlocks then. And Les would build a flintlock-looking firearm with a percussion lock in it.
Oh, I got you.
And Dad would say something like, well, that's not historically correct or accurate. And Les would say, if they'd have had them, they'd have used them.
Yeah. Anyway, so the first long barrel musket like gun that was around was called, and I never say this right, arquebus. And I had to look that up. That Q and U and all that combination sounds like a K. Arquebus. And it was a big, clumsy, heavy. It was almost more like an armed cannon. They were not that handy, I think, in many cases. But
they had a darn tripod built right on them, or not?
A lot of some of them did. They did
a monopod.
And they got also, if you look in that lower right hand picture, those are examples taken off that were found on a ship or found in somewhere. I mean, those are originals. And those arquebuses are also known as hook guns. And see that metal thing on the front hanging down? That's not a handle. What they did with that was they would lean that up against a ship's railing or some other wall or something, and they would use that to keep the gun in place and press in on it when they shot it, because otherwise, they couldn't hardly handle them. And if you look, that's not much. I can't imagine how bad that would feel in your shoulder.
There is no stock on that.
No, might as well say there is no butt stock.
It's like you got a bow limb stuck to a piece of metal.
Yeah,
and you're going to stick that against your shoulder.
Well, I'm not sure they always did. That's the thing. They just basically they pointed them and held on to them, I think, was the key.
Yeah.
But that was the first thing. And this is a shooting sequence. This is actually, I think this was Dutch. It might have been something else. But, it shows the sequence of the guy taking it off his shoulder, getting it ready to fire. If you look in this second picture, you can see the fuse, or the fusee, or whatever else it was called. There's another word for it. The match. And that's what ignited these kind of firearms. And then, of course, when you pull the trigger, you get this poof, and you can't see anything, and maybe even sparks in your face. And then you get this big puff of smoke. So once the battle starts, you can't see each other anyway. You just kind of shoot at one another. And if you've ever been to a reenactment of a battle, such as the Civil War battle, and there's 10,000 guys out there firing muzzle loaders, pretending to fire them at each other, this smoke thing with the field of battle and muzzle loading back in firearms in that day is a real thing, because that smoke would get so thick that they literally couldn't see one another.
Exactly.
And they'd either have to let it shift, move on, or they just shot in the general direction and hope they hit something. But anyway, that's the sequence. Yeah. And that's kind of an early example of what might have been referred to as a musketeer. Note he's still carrying a sword. Also note all this stuff hanging around their necks. That's not a musical instrument. That's a bandolier of that day. So think about all the Western movies you've seen, and the bad guys ride into town and they've got these bandoliers across their
bandoliers
with full of bullets. That's what that is.
Stinking badges.
Stinking badges. Well, that's the bandoliers that those early musketeers carried. And I'm going to assume that each one of those things you see hanging down is a charge. So they probably opened that up, poured the charge down the barrel, which that's pretty big. So that's pretty heavy charges, I'm thinking. And then, ram the projectile down. And that one does have a ramrod. Some of them I didn't see a ramrod with. Anyway, that's
a wasp nest.
A wasp nest.
Little bit of wasp nest.
Ian said a musketeer. No, I heard that wrong. What did you hear wrong, John? It is a musketeer.
We were already singing that this morning.
Oh, not a musketeer.
You weren't here when I was singing "Who's the Leader of Our Gang That's Made for You and Me."
Yeah.
MICKEYMOUSE.
There's Dave's Disney Dreams has joined us. He's probably been here and I missed him. So welcome in, Dave. Other Dave. 2 Daves. Always good when you got 2 of anything.
Lined up like sitting ducks.
we got a pair of Daves in the room. If we had 3, we'd have a full house. Or a full boat, as friends of mine used to call it when we were playing cards. Anyway, so that's how it kind of worked with an arquebus. And there's another picture of one. And some people also call them hand cannons. And if you look at that lower one, or even the one the guy's got hold of in the sketch, the Mark was pointing out, he's got a tripod that's actually connected to the weapon. Again, no buttstock. Look, see how he's putting it under his arm, Mark? So they weren't planning on. I mean, that's just going to slide backwards. I guess
that's just going to end poorly.
That's going to end badly. Yes, sure.
I think so.
It could end up in somebody's face for sure. Well, you can look at the one at the bottom. I mean, that thing is huge, but that is a double arquebus from the 15th century, and I'm not sure if in this case I didn't get an explanation. I don't.
That looks like something Walter would have had in his booth.
Yeah,
that came wrapped in black plastic and
cosmoline. I think what double means in this case is it was probably double charged. It took would hold a lot more powder and a bigger ball, or perhaps even buckshot and ball, because they did that too, or they shot they call it canister shot kind of thing. And I mean, they were also known as, some countries also just refer to them as hand cannons.
So they're shooting them like a bazooka.
Yeah. There you can see in that picture, I just noticed this. That guy's got that similar bandolier with those wooden bottles of charged quick loaders, as we used to call them. And so from this came something more like this,
which is still stupid looking.
See on this. See the guy in the upper left. He's got his fuse in his hand and he's touching match in his hand, as they call it. Just a glowing burning piece of rope's what it was. And you can see he's using his hand to touch it off. He's putting that to a prison of some sort, or a place that held a little bit of powder that ignited the big charge of powder.
Yeah, I think it just went right into the touch hole.
Well, it might have,
which is a hole drilled in the side of the barrel for fire to get in there to the charge. And I think it literally just went those rope fuses, just like you had to wait till it was like, okay, here they come. Blow harder.
So this actually is the same kind of weapon. Well, no, actually, this is a little different. This is a matchlock, but now there were variations of a matchlock. The first ones look very similar to this, but that fuse was actually held by the jaws of this hammer device.
That came back backwards.
It came backwards, and I've got a close-up picture of this just in a moment. And you can kind of see that it would have landed there. Now, this one is actually has a flint in it. What happened here was when you pull the handle, the lever, it's not much of a trigger. The hammer fell backwards, and then there was a wheel that spun because it had a spring. You had to wind that spring up. It's like a clockwork thing. And that wheel spun, hitting the rock, the flint, which caused sparks, which ignited a whole process. Well, they's really simplified that down the road.
That's a wheel lock.
Yeah, that's a wheel lock there. But they made Accubuses with the fuse very similar to this, which I've got a picture of one here just in a moment. All right, there's one. See how that one's held? The fuse is held by this
contraption.
I don't want to call it a hammer, but
hammer.
I think they call it.
It goes backwards. It doesn't go forwards.
Oh, they literally call that piece the serpentine, which is kind of interesting because that word's going to come up again in a few minutes. But anyway, so you can see this one actually. You pull this trigger-like device, which would drop this serpentine into this pan, which ignited, again, the charge. And this pan, and what you can't see in this picture, and I'll try to show you in a moment, is that there's a lever right here, and you had to pull that back, open the pan so that this could hit it. So this was a whole process. It wasn't real quick and simple. And again, you can see the bandolier and a little bit more of a close-up of how things work. And these things shot, very large balls of lead. These are even not as big as I think they should be in this picture. Those might fit that one, and I thank my friends at Guns and Ammo for, sharing these pictures with us.
It's beautiful.
But you can see this
piece of work, though.
Oh yeah, it is. And this is the same weapon close up. See how you can see here's where that pan is. Here's the fuse going into the serpentine, whatever. And this is that cover. So you have to open this cover right here. And opened it like this, and that's where the charge is.
Run the serpentine.
What?
Oh, I'm thinking of a Peter Falk movie that always running the serpentine, when people are shooting at you.
Ian said he's thanking you for making this Mountain Time people proud. I'm not sure what you said, which part of that, but funny, some of those in those days sounded like cannons. Well, some of them looked like cannons. And it's smooth bore. That's another key factor here. Notice that even then, the muskets, Accubuses, matchlocks, fuse locks, whatever, were primarily, not necessarily all, but primarily smooth bore. So think shotgun. The key being there's no rifle.
Not a rifle barrel.
Not a rifle barrel, just a smooth, it's like a piece of pipe inside. It just goes right back to the charge. And they use these for a couple reasons I'll talk about a little bit more. Look at the butt plate. The butt plate in this case is just a piece of steel hammered, nailed onto the stock, so no screws there. And you can kind of see how the lock worked. So from that, they started improving, and other types came out. Here you can see a different version. This rifle, this gun, not rifle, was made in India. Really ornate. I see things like this and that came from Afghanistan and other parts of that world. You see in old movies, you see the Arabs riding into battle, on their camels, and they've got something that looks very similar to that. They may still have called them arquebuses, actually.
Is that a Pink Panther?
Is that a pink where?
Yes.
Oh, is that Pink Panther? What am I missing? Am I not seeing something?
I don't know.
So anyway, and then
I'm not following.
this interesting thing at the bottom down here is actually a revolving matchlock weapon. I've never seen this. This makes me think that if Mr. Samuel Colt saw this one time, that may be where he got his idea for his revolving pistol.
I never even heard of one of them.
Huh?
I never even heard of one of them.
No, me either. I've seen a wheel lock.
Ian said,
"Oh, the
serpentine was the Pink Panther."
Oh. Well, it probably was.
I don't remember the movie, Ian. It was Peter Falk, and he was like on a beach, as I recall, and he was people were shooting at him, and he's like, always running the serpentine, which is stupid. That's when you get killed.
I can't remember.
You run straight and as fast as you can.
So anyway, that was an 8-shot matchlock revolving rifle.
I would love to hold that in my hand.
I would too. I bet it's heavy.
What a cool looking.
You can see here it's the matchlock, the serpentine is in the back, and the fuse would go in that. And look, you can see right here on this revolver, the cylinder part, you'd have to slide this open to make it fire. So again, kind of complicated. You wouldn't want to have to use it in a big hurry. Examples of, like I said, the original musketeers up here. You've got them, holding these gargantuan things and carrying their swords. And I'm not sure where the 3 guys and their buddy are at, but I'm not sure what part of time they're supposed to fit in here. But
D'Artagnan, D'Artagnan
company, yes. And I threw this picture at the bottom down there because this is basically Europeans doing what they did a lot, which is shoot at each other or battle with each other. And this was an early print or painting that shows that this army on the left has 2 musketeers or 2 guys with weapons pointing at the other guys. So I always thought,
and the dudes armed with war bows were slaughtering them.
Oh, I'm sure they were. So we move on up into the 18th century.
Oh, we're getting into real stuff.
And so we're going to talk about a gun, again, smoothbore gun that made a huge impact around the world, because at this time in the 18th century and later 16th, 17th, and on into the 19th, the British were out conquering the world if they could. So, and this gun, this Brown Bess, was what they call their land pattern musket, because they always have to name things weird, was the standard flintlock musket of the British infantry for over a century, from 1722 to 1838, and then they changed and didn't change much. But this weapon was that's what the British soldiers carried. And I don't know if you realize how big this is, but it's 75 caliber, which means it fired a ball that was
3/4 of an inch in diameter.
3/4 of an inch in diameter. So it was almost this big between my fingers. If you can see that, it was a big ball, and you couldn't have made very many. You couldn't make very many of those out of a pound of lead. That was a P2. But So the brown bass made a lot of impacts. Now let's talk about something else for a minute. I keep reminding us that, and I'm going to try to start calling these muskets because generally speaking,
they were smooth bores.
And they're smooth bores. And the reason they were smooth bores back then was because smooth bores were much easier and much faster to load. Black powder, when it fires, is nasty, and it literally will clog up a rifle if you shoot it and can't clean it. It builds up inside the bore. So if you were in battle and you had all these men lined up shooting at one another, let's say the French and Napoleon's army at Waterloo, and you couldn't load as fast as the other guy because you couldn't get your balls rammed down the barrel, that was a detriment. So they made them smooth bores so that they could do that. And then as muskets or rifles came along, usually those were specialized troops. Only certain people had rifles. If you've ever seen any of the Sharps rifles videos or movies or shows that came out of England, I don't know how old these are. Sean Bean was the main character in them. He had a small group of what they call chosen men. And the chosen men in this case were always the best shots in the regiments. And they had
shooting rifles, not smooth bores.
They were shooting, well, right. And then they were issued rifles instead of smooth bores, and when they went into combat. And that was a big deal because those guys, but they were snipers or sharpshooters, whatever you want to call them, but they were the best shots.
Dave, you're right. They were not as accurate.
No, they
would just force so many men into line that somebody was bound to get hit.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, in this time period, Dave, too, you may know this, I'm not trying to preach to the choir, but they didn't really, the British, when they lined up to shoot at one another or shoot at the French or whoever, they didn't really pick out targets. They just fired in that general direction. They were not even taught to aim.
Some of them weren't even looking.
That's true, too.
Well, I mean, they were all flintlocks. So I remember being at a shoot years and years and years ago, back in the early 70s. And my pal saying, there's a flintlock on the line, and everybody that was to his right, he was like, hey, I'm getting ready to touch this thing off. And they all stood there like they didn't know what was going to happen.
They didn't know what he meant.
He touched her up and fire shot out to the right. And some of them got peppered.
Yeah, because there's a little hole beneath where that flint is on that photo. And that little hole is where the fire goes from that pan into the barrel to ignite the charge, the black powder inside. Well, needless to say, all that don't go in. Some of it, once that powder ignites, some of it
goes the other way.
And if you're standing on this side of that pan and you're too close, you will get black specks of. I've met people.
You'll have a tattoo.
You'll get a tattoo, literally, and it doesn't go away. It stays. Usually, if it gets under the skin, it's there forever. And that's you didn't want to be on the wrong side. And that picture is a brown bass long model. They had what they called many different kinds of these pattern muskets. There was this long version, which was taller than we are. There was a shorter version, which was just a little bit shorter than that. And then sometimes there was a carbine, and even the carbines or carbine, your choice, weren't really all that short until years later. And one of the reasons was black powder wasn't of great quality back then, and so they felt like they needed a longer barrel to make the bullet go further, the powder burn better, all kinds of things, and make it a little bit more accurate. Some of these smooth bores actually you can shoot decently, and we'll address that in a moment. But again, a lot of them They were just shooting at the crowd. So anyway, and let's see, I've got some notes here real quick. Brown Bess is a nickname. Nobody really knows where that came from. The musket design, and I already said that the long land pattern musket, and it was a 75 caliber. Um, the British ordnance system actually converted a lot of these flintlocks into percussion cap fire, so they kept using these things for a long time before they just wore them out, I'm sure. And most male citizens of the 13 colonies of British America, when the British were still here and running things, they actually required a lot of people to own firearms and keep them on duty for militia. So if they needed to call, boy, did they regret that one down the road. What?
I'm just reading the comments.
Oh, well, I know. I'm trying to catch up.
So Dave's saying that it sounds like walking through the Disney parks on a busy day.
Well, Carol said that.
Oh, yeah, Carol said that.
So anyway, so the brown bass came to America, and this is an example of the soldiers of the Black Watch carrying their mix of weapons, because again, they still carried this. One's got a basket hilt. Both of them have a basket hilt sword, some sort of a dirk or a dagger there, I see. And one of them has a brown bass, and the other one's still carrying a halberd, or a, that you could call this many things, not a spear, but that was also used for close quarter combat. And actually, this weapon goes all the way back to the days when they were using knights wore armor, because this hook and these devices on the end of this were actually used to rip off and rip open the armor. So think of that as a long handled can opener.
Yeah.
And this what?
I'm just visualizing.
Oh, and this was a
I'm empathizing and visualizing.
Okay, well, good. And you see, by looking at it, you can't really tell how much there's any difference. But so they were short, long, both of them were big and heavy.
You got a dude in a skirt that grew up in a country where the thistles are as high as your waist.
Yeah.
And of course, you're going to be a great fighter.
I just love the fact that they still carried such a. I mean, here they've got the new modern weapon of the day for combat, and yet they're all carrying swords and halberds and stuff like that, because they don't really trust this sometimes. I thought this was great. This was actually taken from a shipwreck, and I forgot to get the info from the shipwreck. But you can see this was what was left of a brown bass musket, which had been in this ship at the bottom of the sea or freshwater. I'm not sure which.
That is loaded.
And it's loaded, and it's got buck and ball in it. So you got buckshot and a ball. So you've got 75 caliber round ball and several probably 32 caliber round balls. I think 32 caliber is about the size of buckshot, or at least double aught buckshot. That almost looks like there's something up here a couple of inches in front of that too. I don't know if that's more shot or if that's just something in the barrel.
Looks like something that'll hurt you.
Yeah, well, it does. The whole thing.
As the guy that fires the piece.
Yeah, that's true.
As they would call
anyway,
it.
I just thought that was interesting find. They dug that out of a shipwreck, and somebody thought, well, let's make sure this thing ain't loaded. Guess what? It was. So let's move up a couple of years. The French and Indian War breaks out, or the 7 Years' War, depending on where you're from. And one of the groups or people that came out of that was Mr. Robert Rogers and his Rangers, who fought. He was an American who fought with the British during the French and Indian War. And you can see him standing here in uniform, this one, and he's got the one of the brown besses But what was unique about Robert Rogers, and if you look in or Robert Rogers Rangers, um, they carried what might be called a modified brown bass. They shortened them and did all kinds of other things to them. So if you can see this guy standing there holding his by the forestock or the barrel, and it's not nearly as tall as he is. So, and you got to remember these guys are shorter than we are, so or generally were.
And my
So,
dad builds these.
well, that's what I was getting ready to say next. Talk about your dad's version of this.
Well, he's got barrels and locks and all the hardware built from an original, and he recreates these for folks.
Yeah. Mark's dad is a gunsmith, among other things, and he's a machinist, a tool and die maker, and has basically earned his living in the last 35, 40 years or more, or actually more, building rifles and gun parts mostly the last 35 years or since
that are historically accurate.
That are historically accurate, and either sells those to other people who make rifles, build rifles themselves, or for someone even in your home garage, or he has built them. Mark has built them for him. I don't know. Did you ever build any of these, Mark?
I never built a Robert Rogers rifle, brown bass. I just like rifles better.
Yeah, well, me too. But I didn't know if you'd ever built any for.
I never had. This is his latest addition to the line, if you will,
okay.
And he's in his 80s now and still building these dang things.
Mark's dad is I mean, I'm going to brag a little bit, but I think this is absolutely sincere. Mark's dad's he can build. If he had ever really wanted to build really super fine museum quality rifles and guns, he certainly could have. Mark could too. His dad he could just make, well, at least both these guys have magic in their fingers. They can make anything, but his dad was one of the finest. He's made some of the finest things I've ever seen gun wise.
My fingers are getting less magical.
Well, they had magic in them.
Getting thicker and harder to. It hurts more than it used to.
Now here's just a couple of more pictures showing these.
But these guys like out Indian to Indian. That was their deal. They figured out how native people fought and took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And they're like the fathers of like the 75th Infantry Regiment Rangers of today. I can still remember seeing like every day, like at our house, hanging my mom used to do decoupage, and she had taken Rogers rules for Rangers.
Oh yeah.
And decoupaged it onto a plank. And the first rule was never forget nothing.
Yeah. I remember that. That's still hung on the wall in your house.
It did for like my whole life. When I was home, it was hanging on the wall. Don't forget nothing was number one.
And this was a set of rules that Rogers really came up with, and all his Rangers, that's how they worked. And now it didn't go into all the details about everything, tactic wise and stuff, but it was all the basic things like, don't stand in a straight line, don't get too close together, don't forget nothing, that kind of stuff. And
if you got a tree to use to hide behind, use the tree.
Yeah, they didn't believe in that lining up, standing out in the field and shooting one another stuff. And in this time period in America, the French, most of the natives fought for the French because at that time the French were treating them, let's say, better, differently. They weren't trying to settle and take lands so much yet, and were giving them all the trade goods they wanted to help them stop the British. They didn't like the British, or at least they didn't like the American part of the British equation, because we were moving over the mountains and we were taking land. So when the French and Indian War was over, and this, I'll try someday I should talk about Robert's Rangers, I guess Rogers Rangers. When that war ended and then the Revolution started, the British talked the Indians into fighting for them because, again, they said, we'll help you stop these American interlopers and won't let them take your land if you help us. So they got used in many different ways. But anyway, and Rogers Rangers actually continued to fight with the British, not the Americans. Um, it's just how things work out in time and history. This is a picture of Robert
Yeah,
Rogers.
he was a Tory eventually.
Tory. While he was a hero in the French and Indian War to Americans, he was not, when the Revolutionary War came about, he was a Tory. He fought for the British.
Because he had taken an oath.
Yeah, well, yeah. The guy on the right that most of you probably never heard of, but that's a portrait or a painting of Sir William Johnson. Now, that sounds like anybody could be. Who's Sir William Johnson? I didn't know until I started reading more books. But Sir William Johnson was an early British, I don't know if you'd call him a nobleman. He wasn't a sir at first, I don't think. Wasn't he?
He was an Irishman.
Yeah.
He was an Irishman that ended up like finding fame in America.
Yeah. And he was.
And he also stayed with the Brits.
Well, and he was known for working with the Indians, and he had a son who was half native, half Irish, if you will, and his name was Brant. What was his first name?
Joseph Brant.
Joseph Brant, who also fought for the British during the Revolution, and but he worked with the Native Americans during the French and Indian War, and he was sort of like the British version of the Indian agent of that time, and that's him holding a modified brown bess that was one of the Robert Rogers type brown besses, and that's why that picture's there. And they both are carrying a modified brown bess. The Robert Rogers one looks kind of normal because he's got it in his arm, but if you could lay it down, put it on the ground, put the buttstock on the ground, it wouldn't be as long as the typical brown bess was. So also during that time, and shortly thereafter, and they were actually there before, but this is the first time that I found that they were mentioned in writing. Another important gun of the time was and I'm sorry, this is a percussion cap rifle. I didn't realize that when I stuck it in here. Probably modified. These originally would have all been flintlocks still. But the French and the British started trading guns with the Native Americans almost from the beginning. Almost from the time they actually came over here and started trading. One of the things that the natives wanted were guns because they could hunt with them and fight with them and all the reasons that everybody else had them. And so they were a very important trade item in the French and British traders both traded with them for fur, and they were typically smooth bore. They liked this big funny looking trigger guard because they could get a mitten in there in the cold climate where most of them were sold. And again, the old Northwest was everything from Ohio, Indiana, up into, the Minnesota and or what's now Minnesota, probably out to about the Mississippi River, basically. That was the Northwest back then. And the Indians liked these smooth bores. One, they sold them smooth bores because they were cheaper and lighter to make, partially. And the Indians liked them because they could shoot buckshot or round ball in them, so they could hunt birds with them. They could use them for other kinds of things. So that was very helpful for them. And they were basically inexpensive. I've read stories. I have somewhere here in the back, I have a book that talks about the history of these things, the trade gun or the Northwest trade gun. And they bought them from different countries. Belgium was famous for having these little groups of artisans that moved into the firearms business when they came along, and they made them. The French made them, some Brits made them, but they were generally speaking cheap and not as well made as other things, so they could buy them inexpensively, take them to North America and trade them for fur. And the natives would use them till they broke, and then they might come back and trade for another one. The traders didn't care as long as they were trading. Trust me, they weren't doing it for anybody else's benefit. They were doing it for their own. But anyway, and this one shows two things. One, it shows some decoration with brass tacks. That's typical on Northwest trade guns. They get decorated with brass tacks. Things hanging on the trigger guard. Each person decorated it to suit themselves, and Native Americans were into that sort of thing. And they all typically had this dragon serpentine side plate that's in the lower picture. And somewhere I read, and I think I wrote this down, excuse me, pardon me again for that, that serpent, to some tribes, that they liked that because they saw it as it had spiritual significance. Some did, not all, and associated it with powerful beings for the hunt. I was going to read a quote here. Let me think if I find it here real quick. I've got it in my notes.
I'm not sure where that came from because it's clearly a dragon.
Yeah, me either. I don't know.
I've inletted a gazillion of these, and they're kind of a pain to put in that wood.
They are.
And they're, sort of serpent looking, but more dragon looking.
And and I don't know where that came from either. I mean,
I don't know who decided that was, because like you said, there were several companies from different countries that were doing this exact same. I mean, there might have been variations of it, but they were doing the same thing over and over and over, and the natives loved it.
And Tina said that bright green on those uniforms is unfortunate. They look like they're wearing shorts or no boots. I have to go back to that and look.
They probably had a breechcloth on.
They've got leggings. Yeah, they've got leather leggings up to.
And there's leather leggings or green leggings, and they're both wearing deer skin. All three of them, 4 of them probably, all had on deer skin breeches and some form of legging, anyway, which kept the burrs off of you and the spiky things.
Which there's plenty of in the woods. Brass tacks, that's where the saying comes from. Getting down to brass tacks. Probably true, Ian. I didn't look that up, but I think I've heard that too, because they traded a lot of brass tacks. Anything like that, ornamental cones, metalwork, things they could trade, beads. We talked about beads a couple of weeks ago. Beads were not the only thing. I mean, brass tacks, metal cones, just shiny things in general were very popular. But I'm like you, Mark. I don't know if I've ever read where that dragon comes from. I
don't know where it was designed at, or if it came from the Orient.
Well, that's what it reminds me of, something from the Orient. But at this time, I don't know if they were trading with the Orient yet.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that design came from China, but who knows? Or Mongolia or wherever. Anyway,
there's a quote.
More data.
I have a a little bit. The Northwest trade gun first appears in the fur trade records of the Hudson's Bay Company as early as 1761. And by 1777, trader John Long, who was trading north of Lake Superior, so up in
Canada,
he wrote in his journal, I gave to the 8 chiefs who were in the band each a Northwest gun. So he gave them one of these to get their favor and trade. This entry is the first mention made referring to the gun as a certain type or style. From this point forward, the fur trade records were full of mentions of Northwest guns, which were also called fusees. I always thought that was fusiles or fusils. It's actually fusee, is if you pronounce it French, which is where it comes from. Look that up, and it says right here, fusee. They were also called, but they were called London guns, Mackinac guns, Hudson Bay fusees, but they were basically all called Northwest trade guns or Northwest guns, and that's where it started. Again,
so on a weird little side note on that, the French and the Brits were trading with the Ojibways and the Chippewa people, and gave them firearms, lots of them, which drove the Sioux or Lakotas or Dakotas or whatever out of Minnesota and to the Black Hills. They left because folks were hunting them with firearms, and they didn't have firearms yet.
We've never talked about that, but one of these days I think we're going to. But a lot of the Native Americans, if we think about where they were in our history, it's not where they started. Just like
Right.
The Lakota, the Sioux were not out in the Western Plains or the Rocky Mountains. They were in like Minnesota and Wisconsin area of the world, and probably that part of Canada. And they got moved west as Europeans moved west over the mountains. They pushed more natives westward, who pushed more natives westward until they finally got to the Rockies.
Where they ended up.
Yeah, where they ended up, and then after that, that's a whole nother story. But but things like trade guns traded to those more eastern Indian tribes, pushed the western ones further west. Like Mark's saying, it's a whole. All these things had consequences.
It's like a domino.
It's like a domino.
Anyway,
so then we get up to the Revolutionary War period, and we're still using muskets. All the military that's the main thing. In fact, muskets are used right up to the Civil War. And we're not going to talk much about the Civil War, but that's when things started changing because of a little French guy named Manet. We'll just touch on that if we have time. I'll probably do that in another story. But anyway, and basically what the Americans were using at the time, or what would become Americans when the Revolution was over, were copies, either French muskets from Charleville, or U.S. made copies of those same muskets. And that's a picture of one. Let's see. Says primary infantry firearm for the Continental Army during the Revolutionary War was a French-made Charleville musket. How do you say that, Mark? Does your dad have he has Charleville Fusiliers or something, doesn't he?
No,
No,
I don't think he builds this one.
Okay,
we built the rifles that were being built that were based off the German Jaegers.
Jaegers, right. I'm going to talk about those in a minute.
And I mean, they're a rifle. And
right.
And my great grandpappy, his outfit that came from around the Pittsburgh area. He was from West Virginia.
What's now West Virginia?
South of Morgantown, west of Morgantown. That all those boys carried rifles, and when I was researching the family, there were, war documents, lots of war documents that were about them. And the Hessians that the Brits had hired to be their mercs had specifically written orders that said, if these guys are on the field, do not expose yourself because they'll shoot you from the forest like red savages.
Because they just didn't think it was right to hide and shoot.
You can't hide behind something and shoot somebody with a rifle.
Which is really stupid. When you think about it, Tina, so when you
like,
think about
we got to line up and face the fire. That's ridiculous.
Pretty much true, Tina, with one exception. Well, that is true, but I mean, there's also another factor that you can't deny, and that's greed. I mean, the Europeans wanted furs. They wanted furs at all costs at that time. Sure, it was a resource, but it was also because of fashion. Fashion drove it in Europe. They made hats out of that stuff. They made coats out of it, but they wanted the furs, seal furs, beaver pelts, otter pelts. And while that is a resource, there was more than that driving it. And some of these trading companies became world empires.
It was all about the money, boys.
All about the money, boys. It was. Still resources. I don't disagree there. There were different drivers. Anyway,
look at that beautiful lock. My goodness.
That one's stamped U.S. So this was one that the U.S. somebody in the colonies was making a copy of the Charleville and marking it U.S., which they did. And this is another version of long land. They had the same kind of, I don't know what standards when they came to muskets and things. This was a 69 caliber smoothbore. This is the model 1828 Charleville. This is what the French were carrying when the French and Indian War was fought. And then they had another version that was, I think, 62 caliber, which is about a 20 gauge shotgun later. This is the armory or the place where these guns were built in France, the town, which then became the name of what everybody called the gun from there. This is just another close-up picture. Actually, that's the same picture at the top, isn't it? The bottom one is just a newer reproduction, I believe, of the Charleville musket. You can tell, you can look at it and see differences from the British. This 4M piece up here shaped different. These bands are different. There's not as much brass on them, although there wasn't a lot of brass on the Brown Bess, but there was some. And that pictures of Rogers Rangers fighting in the snow. Actually, that's probably from a famous battle called the Battle on Snowshoes. But that's just a picture. This is a modern day version of a Fusey fin kit, which was a smoothbore hunting, hunting type piece that they would have sold, but also fought with. And there's the kit version of it laying on that cloth on the right. I think I got this right. Those are supposed to be the same. This one's what's finished. This is what you could buy today if you want to build one for yourself. And then the Hessians came along, and a few other things started changing. And this is in the either U.S. Military Museum or in one of the other museums in the Northeast that have a lot of Revolutionary period things, including weaponry. This is a Hessian Dragoon pistol. I read something recently. I guess I knew this, but I hadn't thought about it. But a lot of these pistols back then had this big ball on the end of the handle or the grip. And I always just figured that was to keep it from sliding out of your hand, but it was more than that.
It was a war club.
Yeah, after you fired this thing, most of the time you didn't have time to reload it, so they just flipped it around and beat people over the head with it. That is literally what it was for.
I'm a dragoon on a dun. I'm a Cossack on the run.
Oh man, I love that song.
Fighting Bonaparte at Waterloo. There, we can add that to the K-Tel records.
Yep, we can. Mark and Tim do K-Tail. Anyway, this pistol, I believe, was rifled, which is where I'm getting to next, I believe. Because even before the Hessians were here in the Revolution, there were German settlers already over here. One of the things they brought with them was the rifle. Was the rifle? They had figured out that people knew that if you put rifling or a twist in the bore, that they were much more accurate. They didn't do it because they were faster to load smooth bores, and they thought smooth bores. Many people thought smooth bores were still the way to go, but the Jaeger rifles were hunting rifles, and as you can see by looking, they were shorter, they were more compact. Some of them are more ornate in their own way, but these are all variations of a Jaeger, which eventually turned into what we know as the American long rifle, or Pennsylvania rifle, Kentucky rifle, Southern mountain rifle. But rifle being the key word here. These were rifles that were already here, but the military didn't use them much. They became more popular as things went on.
Yeah, they're harder to maintain than a smooth.
They were harder to make.
They're a little bit harder to make. But Jaeger means hunter.
Ian. Did you drink it really icy cold, or did you just drink it? Most people I know drink it cold.
Meister. You got to add the Meister.
Oh, yeah, that's true. You got to add the Meister to it. Jägermeister.
Hunter Master. Master of hunters.
Because that's what Jaeger means in German, is hunter. And so American gunsmiths took this idea of the rifle barrel.
Made it way cooler.
Yeah. Although I have to admit, some of these short
I love those swamp barreled, which means it's a barrel that starts out big on the butt end and gets narrower and then swells out again on the bore end. That's what's called a swamped barrel.
Did you ever have that one?
Almost all Jaegers had swamp barrels.
Yeah.
But they were all short. And the Americans are like, well, let's just make them a bit longer and they'll be cooler that way.
Yeah, right.
And they were.
And one of the reasons they made them swamped was so they could cut a little bit of weight off of them, because otherwise they were heavy. They were still heavy.
Like a master hunter the next morning.
Don't feel like it. No, you don't, Ian. You don't. Anyway, so that's what eventually evolved into the American rifle. And the long rifle became important. In fact, another point, I'm sure some Hessians had Jaeger rifles when they came over here, but they still fought with smooth bores primarily. I mean, in military, still fought with smooth bores. It was quicker load, faster to get up. I mean, they thought that was the way to go. Accuracy was not their main thought. Their main thought was just mass firepower, period.
Just lay down a heavy base of fire and they'd be all right that way.
Yeah, and then use a bayonet on them or whatever. But I guess in some ways the Americans always looked at this like, well, that might work, but this thing over here is a heck of a lot more accurate, and we'd really rather shoot this if we could.
Yeah.
So eventually that's what happened. I mean,
if you were making your living on the frontier eating deer and elk and bears or whatever,
yeah,
this is what you wanted. Something like this, only better.
Yeah, only better. And then we move into the American long rifle or
There we go. There's the better.
the Kentucky long rifle, or not through this end just for my benefit, or the Tennessee rifle, which is also, some people also refer to those as Southern mountain rifles. And I'll show you a picture of why they're different here in a moment. But that's an example of a fairly ornate Kentucky or Pennsylvania long rifle. This one in particular at the upper left was made by John Spencer, and it is currently in the Walters Art Museum, which I can't remember what city that was in. This picture at the bottom, I primarily put this in here for the rifle, but these pistols also match. I mean, they're made in a similar fashion. But pistols were never as big a deal back then because pistols, one, didn't shoot as well. You couldn't hit things at 100 yards with one or 200 yards. And you only carried that for, self-defense. And in the military back then, the only people who carried pistols were either like cavalry
Dragoons
or the commanders. They usually carried a handgun and a sword because they were there to lead, not to fight. That's how they looked at it. This exhibit, which says the Golden Age, maybe not, is a group of Kentucky rifles and pistols. This is in the Huntington, West Virginia History Museum. And these are all either Pennsylvania gun makers or Massachusetts gun makers. Let's see if I have anything over here in my notes that's special. So I guess everybody knows what rifling is. Rifling are the grooves inside the barrel that the bullet or ball engages with when they're fired, and that makes that thin. And I don't know I can't remember who did it, but somebody figured out if you make those things spin, they're a heck of a lot more accurate. And most people don't realize this, but bow and arrows.
The Germans did it, dude.
Who? Well, the Germans.
The Germans.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Bows and arrows actually spin also. I don't think people realize that, but they, fletching imparts a twist. That makes them more accurate. Anyway, like I said, it was made. The Germans brought it here, and then we went from there.
Yeah, I mean, if you shot a shaft out of a bow that was just naked, basically,
they just go everywhere.
Who knows? But if you shoot one that's got feathers on it, fletchings on the back end that are twisted, that sucker will go right where you want it to go.
Yep.
After some practice.
And there's some examples of, after some practice. Here's some examples of American long rifles. And I actually put this photo in here and then realized that I wanted to be talking about flintlocks only right now. And there's only one flintlock in there. although here's something that happened, and you see these guns out there. I used to.
All those are converted though.
Right. They converted them once the percussion cap ignition system came along. People got rid of their flintlocks and bought these because they were easier, faster, all those kind of, because that's what we do. And we move up to the next better thing. And that's an American soldier, and I can't remember.
Like an M1 Garand.
Like an M1 Garand. So I'll put some pictures in here, some examples of Kentucky rifles that you might see somewhere. And these are more ornate ones. They weren't all like this, but you see a lot like this. People like to show these off, and people have them made, that are like this. And a lot of times they did have a brass patch box like this one here. That one says, this rifle made by somebody Smith. I can't read the first name. Huh?
Oh, we had a friend named, I can't even remember what his actual name was, but he always signed his patch boxes and things he always engraved it. And this rifle was built by. and we called him Bilty Bye.
Oh, I remember that. I've heard your dad say that.
He was a fine riflesmith.
Anyway, I'm back there. I'm sorry, guys. I got to. Someday you'd think I've only been doing this about 3 years now. You'd think by now I'd keep my hand off the mouse. Anyway, these are just examples, and if you've ever been someplace, a museum where they have, this kind of art, if you will, on display, most of the time you see a Kentucky or Pennsylvania long rifle, they're displaying something that's like this. It's the more ornate variations. But that wasn't the everyday person's hunting rifle. That wasn't what was sitting behind the door. Usually they have something plainer. But Pennsylvania and Kentucky rifles, generally speaking, use brass or maybe even what we call German silver furnishing or furniture, the parts, the trigger guard, the butt plate, the patch box. That changed as we moved further south. What were you getting ready to say?
Well, I was getting ready to say I'm not seeing. Oh, there's a drawing there that says "Take a look inside" on that.
Yeah, down here.
Yeah, where it's showing the ornate woodwork that occurs on the off side of where the butt stock is. You got a patch box on one side, which is it's to hold patches or wax or something. It was a lid that lifted up, made out of brass or German silver, that had a latch on it, and you could put extra patches or whatever for the ball.
Or you might have something in there.
And then on the off side of this butt stock would be ornate carving, relief carving, we called it.
Yeah, and I don't know if I hope I've got a picture of that.
And there's that drawing right there.
Right here, what they're showing right here.
Yeah, that shows all the ornate, like. But I'm sad they didn't put like a photo of it.
Well, maybe I've got one. That's probably my fault. I probably didn't pick one out.
It's as much artwork as.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And it's wood. It's just wood.
And you can see it in this middle part of these pictures. This is on the wrist.
Right behind the tang there. It's gorgeous.
And they incorporated, a lot of times the cheek piece itself would be incorporated into some of these carvings, and the cheek piece is literally that. It's where when you lay down put your head down on the rifle to aim, there's a piece there that kicks the rifle out just a little bit by pressing against your cheek or your face. And it's called cheek piece. So then you move further south into Southern or Tennessee mountain rifles, and you get something that looks more like this. And we used iron and metal or other, not brass or German silver. They became less ornate and just functional, I guess is one word. Again, this is a darn percussion gun. These were made, I put these in here because, and they're probably conversions also, but I put these in here because they were made locally, somewhere near me. Russell Bean, I believe, is the Bean whose shop was in Jonesboro. I'm not sure about that, but I think he was. He was in that area anyway. George Bean, I think, was from more down this way. But the Beans were rifle makers that lived in East Tennessee, probably Western North Carolina too. I'm not sure about that part, but they certainly lived in Tennessee. And one of them, or a family of them, because that tended to run in the family, gunsmiths and things like that got handed down a lot from generation to generation. We're in my hometown of Jonesboro, and where Mark partially grew up. Anyway, so I wanted to put these in here, and this might have a picture, Mark. These were made by Herschel House, and Mark knew Herschel. Mark's dad knew Herschel for a long time. I met Herschel way back
Herschel
many years ago, I guess in the 80s. Herschel was a guy from Kentucky. We've talked about him a little bit before, but he was an absolute. He could
Everything in that picture's hand built.
Yeah, and he made all his parts.
Barrels, everything. Hand built.
He didn't just put parts together from a kit, which is how I would build one because I'm not that good. Herschel made everything. He cast his own parts. He made his own metal. I mean, he cut it out. He made his own barrels, which is no small task. In fact, that's a big deal.
By hand. By
hand.
But not even with like a machine.
And he could just, but when he went to work on a rifle or a pistol, they were just beautiful. I mean, again, magic flowed out of those fingertips. And man, he made some nice, beautiful stuff. And you can see a little bit of that carving on the buttstock up here, although it's not as, there's not much of it on this upper stock where it says the Spears rifle, which was a rifle that Herschel made based on, someone named Spears, his particular style. Because all these gun makers, they might have a shop in Jonesboro, one of them might have a shop in Zanesville, Ohio, or where Mark's dad lived, and they all had their own. A lot of these things came out very similar, but none of them were exactly the same, which goes without saying by handmade. But what I mean is each gunsmith, each gun builder had his own unique way of doing things, and a lot of them signed their names on them somewhere. Sometimes it's hidden underneath the barrel or underneath the trigger guard or some place you don't see. Historians know where to look for that kind of stuff, but they were all, some people can just look at one and say, oh, that's a such and such from Spencer County, Pennsylvania or something, because of that's the way they made their parts. And even in like that, there might be a county in Pennsylvania, every little gunsmith, there might be 10 gunsmiths in the area. They'll make something that looks very similar, but again, there's always those little unique things that make them different. And Herschel House was just special. So during the Revolution, something else came along.
The Ferguson rifle.
And this was a repeating rifle, and it was a repeating flintlock, and it was invented by a gentleman by the name of Ferguson, who was a Scottish commander in the British Army, who met his maker down here in western North Carolina when he threatened the Over Mountain men to lay them waste at sword and fire if they didn't surrender or give up and come back to the east and live. And they said, that ain't gonna happen. And they all ran over to Kings Mountain and met him and did away with him,
and killed him
right there on the spot. But a lot of his soldiers, not all of them, carried a version of this rifle. By the time they got to Kings Mountain, I believe, if my history is correct, the British had not ever approved this as an official military weapon. They still weren't sure about it, and most of them were locked up in the armory somewhere, but a few of them still had them because there were some found on the battlefield, but not all of them. And what was unique about this was you could spin the trigger guard, as you see in that illustration. You turned it one way and it went down, and you could put a new ball in it. Actually, the balls were in there somewhere loaded into the butt.
Yeah, it was already loaded.
Yeah, and you just pushed another one in. You cranked it back up. I guess you added the powder because the ball was already there. You added the powder and cranked that shut and pull the prison back or the hammer back and release and fire and do it again. And I think they fired, seems like they fired 6 or 7 rounds. But it was one of the first breech loading rifles that was somewhat successful. Again, the British never took, maybe after he was killed over here, maybe they didn't even care to make it or use or try it again. But they didn't go to rifle muskets or rifles until later in the 18th century. they still thought they weren't right for they weren't for battle. You got to remember, as late as the 1860s in America, we proved this. We were still lining up and shooting at each other. It's one of the reasons why the casualty levels were so high in the
Yeah, it's always baffled me that we went from.
Whoa! What is this? Hang on a minute.
I don't know.
John's made a statement here, and I've missed it. His brother has
two. No, really?
Not Ferguson's. You mean old rifles, or he's got Ferguson rifles, John?
He got two Fergusons. There's only there were not very many of them made.
Now there have been some remade in recent years.
That's way cool.
Didn't somebody
try to get Dad has molds for the trigger guard mechanism and lock right now sitting in the shop.
Somebody
he has rebuilt some Fergusons.
Cool.
But what the heck was I gonna say? I don't know.
Maybe he's talking.
You went like this, and I
Sorry,
just butterflies.
I gotta quit moving my hands.
No,
that's maybe John's just talking about Jaeger rifles. Or maybe his brother's just got two balls of Jägermeister. He's been offered $100 for them. No, that wouldn't be it. I'm just kidding, John. Sorry. I don't know. Maybe he stepped away from the computer, so he's cooking. Maybe when he comes back, he shows back
two original Fergusons. That's way cool.
That would blow me away. I'd almost go see it.
I'd just like to look at
hell, his brother lives over the mountain here. I could drive over the mountain.
That would be so cool.
I forgot about that.
You could just drive over there and like, hey, let me look at those.
He has over 100 guns, all old guns. John, we got to talk about this a little bit more, buddy. I'm going to move on. It's already after 12. Jesus. Okay, so Ferguson came along with his rifle, but again, we still weren't really using it. But the U.S. military started thinking about it and started offering some groups rifles. Again, these were usually sharpshooters, special operations kind of soldiers. So they started working on some what they call contract rifles in the late 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s. And one of the things that resulted from that was the 1803 rifle that's shown in this picture. Harper's Ferry model, the one that's down here at the bottom anyway. This one may not be. The 1803 Harper's Ferry rifle, which for a little bit was a standard issue, again, to certain groups. The main infantry still carried smoothbores. The 1803 was the first standard, though, approved by the military that came along. That was rifle. Now this rifle gun has a lot of history. Some of it true, some of it may not be true. But
my dad doesn't rebuild. He builds these.
He builds this model 1803.
He has that all the molds he built molds for all the parts for the 1803 Harper's Ferry.
Now, that'd be kind of cool. I'd kind of like to have one of those. That'd be something I'd be interested in. Well, I'd like to have one of its smoothbores too, but here's why I would like to have one. Some people think that Lewis and Clark carried these on their expedition west. Now, there's also another line of thought that says no, they weren't actually these because they hadn't started producing these yet. They were in the process of building them and developing them. But what most people think is that when Lewis stopped at Harper's Ferry Armory to pick up, the rifles that he was going to issue his men on the explorers of the group of what do they call them, Mark? Something oh heck, what do they call the group?
Great Expedition or something.
Yeah. Anyway, he wanted them to have rifles. They were going to, they had some other things, but they wanted rifles.
Right.
So he went to Harper's Ferry to get such rifles. They were building and taking in, I think my next picture shows a couple. These were some U.S. model contract rifles that they were having built. And then the top one is the Harper's Ferry. And that's what's in this display cabinet over here. And before the trip, Lewis and Clark expedition obtained rifles from the Harper's Ferry arsenal. It has been stated or speculated that Lewis saw and procured the model 1803 for the expedition. And I've read that for years in books. However, maybe not, or not. I'm not sure actually. The 1803 may not have been available, so some historians believe that a small number of early 1803s were procured for Lewis and Clark. But it's also possible that what they actually carried was some what they call 1794 contract rifles that were modified to Lewis's specifications at the arsenal, and that rifle that they built became the 1803, which makes more sense to me. And for example, they rebored them and re-rifled them to a 54 caliber. I don't know what they were before that. Smaller, obviously. And they shortened the barrels. They used half stocks instead of full stocks. And the U.S. Army's records say that they acknowledge that there were 300 of the 1792, 1794 contract rifles at the arsenal at that time. The Army refers to modern speculation that the changes Lewis had made to the contract rifles, adding sling swivels, shortening the barrel, even shorter than they already were to 33, 36 inches, reboring them to 54, is what led to the design of the U.S. 1803. So they may not have had actual U.S. model 1803 rifles, Harper's Ferry rifles, but they had quite possibly the rifles, the prototypes, in a way. They weren't really prototypes because they were already proven rifles. They were just made to their specs. And that's what they carried on their expedition, which I think is cooler than hell. Because I've read for years that he got pre-production 1803 Harper's Ferry rifles, which makes more sense than actually carrying the rifle, because they just modified what they had. And I think that's great. I'd love to have a Harper's Ferry. I'm gonna have to keep that in mind.
Well, Dad builds them. Tim keeps referring to the stock. Some folks may not know what the stock is.
Yeah, well, let me show you a picture.
It's the wooden part.
Yeah, it's the wooden part.
And that short-barreled 1872 contract rifle, it was a flintlock. It was a full stock gun, full stock. The wood runs up from one end all the way to the other.
All the way up here. See what I did here with this picture? This is what I've been working on trying to do, is get rid of this white background and be able to merge the picture in like this.
Yeah.
Almost looks like it's hanging in our teepee, buddy. Yep. Anyway, the stock is all the wooden part, is what Mark's saying, and a half stock or a shortened stock, the wood only goes up
about right there.
Or right around where this thimble is for the ramrod. So in here, right in here, is a half stock. I'll pull one out of my safe in a minute and show you. But anyway, but they started making these shorter versions, and eventually they shortened the stocks on them too. But again, we go all the way forward to 1861, and they're still shooting big old long full stock slick.
So Dad makes all that hardware, all that.
So he makes all this stuff right here.
And all of it. The butt plate, which is the back of the firearm that goes against your shoulder. All the guts and that. He builds those locks, which is the part that fires it. Triggers, trigger guard. The deal on the bottom there is called a trigger guard. And then the barrels. Did I lose you? Did we lose him?
No, he stepped away for a moment.
He disappeared.
He'll come back.
It's the Mark Show.
It's just magic. So here's what we're talking about, kinda. This is, if you can see it, I don't know if I can get it in the screen. This is a half stock rifle. The barrel has this ramrod channel.
Don't be pointing that muzzle at me.
I was pointing it at the camera, but the stock only goes to here, so it's half stock. And this is a rifle I built. This was a half stock, what we called a trade rifle, or what was sold as a trade rifle. And fine shooting piece of
a fine piece of equipment.
Now, I'm not going to say I'm a great rifle builder, because I'm not. But I built that one, and what I do know is it shoots really good. And why do I know that? Well, because I've got 2 or 3 of these. And this is a medal that I won for shooting in jungle. This rifle gun right here.
But not with the trade gun.
Not with the trade gun. Mark and I built a pair of trade guns.
We had a pair of trade guns that you couldn't hit a 4x8 piece of plywood with if you were 25 yards away.
I couldn't hit it. And we're both not bad shots, so there was something.
But my father has since procured that company, and his barrels work way better than the previous owners. So
your dad actually owns the Curly's.
He bought all of Curly's stuff.
I didn't realize that. Okay, cool.
But not his barrels.
Bro, his barrels suck. So I mean, there's just no 2 ways. I mean, Mark's not kidding. We had a 4x8 piece of plywood, 25 yards or less, and neither one of us could hit it.
They were smooth bores, but we should have been able to hit it.
We should have been able to hit that plywood.
If you used Dad's rifles or his barrels, you'd be like poking it in the center.
And that gun,
they got more steel in them than Curly's did.
Curly's were thin.
Yeah.
And maybe that thinness is why they were bored crooked. I don't know what happened, but that gun is missing. That's one of the guns I lost in all my moves, and I still to this day don't know what happened to it. And even though it was, I don't want to say what I was getting ready to say, even though it doesn't shoot very well, I'd still like to have it back.
I built them when I was at Arkansas in college.
Yeah.
I was building them for Curly.
Oh, that's right. You were. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Right there, like in the house. Had a drill press in my dang bedroom, and I was building those trade guns for him, and they were just like, that barrel was like not good.
Not good. So anyway, I'll get through the rest of this. Anyway, they started making shorter barrel rifles. And then I wanted to talk just barely, we've touched on this before, but one of the things that Lewis and Clark took along with their 1803 type rifles were this, and I believe this
air rifle.
His air rifle. And I read something just yesterday that said that while we think he carried this Ghirardoni type air rifle, which Ghirardoni, I believe, was Italian, might have been French, who invented that air rifle, in which Austrian military actually used in combat. They actually had groups of soldiers that carried this thing. There is a rifle, another air rifle, the one that looks like the one at the bottom. In fact, it may be that one at the bottom. That is called the Lunken air rifle, and it's in a museum or in a family's group. I think it's in a museum donated somewhere up around Pennsylvania or Pittsburgh area. I can't remember exactly where they said it was. That this Lunkin guy was a watchmaker and a gun maker. He did a lot of fiddling around with different things, and he designed and built his own version of an air rifle. So they thought that for a little, and he has a letter. They have some kind of documentation that says that this is what Lewis and Clark carried west on their.
I think it's the bottom one, dude. I know Dad has a buddy that built 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah.
I mean, in the last 20 years, and they look like that one on the bottom.
They don't look like the one on the top.
They do not look like that thing.
Well, then that's probably what, and maybe they were Lunkins then.
And they were. I was amazed. They were like 40 calibers too. They weren't like. It wasn't like it was a little tiny piece of shot that came out. It was They were killing deer with them.
The Ghirardelli version was 50 caliber, which is like Clark said.
That's the upper one.
It's supposed to be the upper one. They were supposed to be 50 caliber.
But the lower one looks like the one that my dad's buddy recreated.
Well, it could be.
And
that's the thing. They're still not sure.
And I got to shoot it at Fort Frederick.
Oh, did you?
And they were literally killing mule deer with these on the plains when they got out there, like when they were in South Dakota.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't. I don't think they looked like that one on the top.
Well, that'd be interesting because there is speculation about that. Because I'd read for years that they thought it was a Ghirardelli, and then now I'm reading that they think it might have been more like this Lunkin one at the bottom. So it very well could have been. And you're right. I mean, I'm not kidding. The Austrian army had these built, groups of these for military, and I guess the reason was the Ghirardelli one of these things held like 20 rounds. You could just turn it over, kind of like a BB gun. Turn it over, cock it, shoot again.
Right.
Every time you turned it or whatever, twisted it, a new ball fed. And, you could stand there and have a rapid fire rifle when nobody else did. And you could still see what you were shooting at because there wasn't any smoke.
And they had like a weird bladder thing that you had to fill with air.
Yeah, you had to pump that up.
And pump that thing up. And it was attached to the rifle. And they were amazingly powerful for an air rifle.
The Ghirardelli style at the top, the butt on that looks weird. That's because that's the air chamber on it. That's the bottle. That's the pressurized part of that.
Yeah, the ones I've seen were not. That was a separate mechanism that attached to the rifle.
So is it like a container that's set beneath the rifle? Yeah,
like you had to pump it up. Like I don't know what I'm trying to say with, how you got like a pump that you would pump up.
Yeah, you pressurize that chamber and then
like my wife's like soft surfboard.
Yes, exactly.
Kind of like that. Right. And it attached the rifle at some point. I don't remember where now. Forward of the lock, I think.
Yeah, somewhere right in here is one. I've seen that, and it screws on right here, and that's how it's kind of like plugging your CO2 cylinder into an air rifle today.
Yeah.
Actually, they make hunting air rifles today that are 30 and 40 caliber and 50 caliber, and they have a compressed air tank that screws into them on the buttstock or somewhere and attaches inside. Or it hooks underneath the barrel. And
right.
They hunt with those things in some states. I've seen pictures. I'd love to shoot one sometime. Anyway, and they also carried 2 other things. I know I'm getting off my original topic a little bit, but Clark also wrote about in his journals, and he kept very good journals and maps. He was an excellent keeper of notes. He also referred to his small rifle a lot. He had a personal rifle that was 36 caliber, they believe. Well, he said it was 100 balls to the pound, which turns out to be about a 36 caliber. He carried that with him and used it a lot. And then Lewis also took a shotgun with him, or a smoothbore Fowler, and they talk about that a lot because they collected a lot of bird specimens to take back to and send back to Washington for Jefferson. That ended up in the Smithsonian in places now. He carried a Fowler that looked like the one at the bottom, which was just basically a shotgun, and he had it made. And it took there's records that show where he bought it, and I mean it's really cool the records they have on some of this stuff. And that is the end for now. And I'm gonna shut up and take any questions. And I also have something I want to show. One more thing. Nobody asked me about this, and I'm really disappointed. Nobody asked me about my new coffee cup. My new coffee cup that has Saturday Morning Shine on it and my logos, if you will, my spirit animals. And I had this made the other day.
That's cool.
It's not exactly like I want it.
I didn't see it.
Well, I was trying to drink with it earlier, and I was turning it around so both sides would show, but nobody noticed it, which is okay. I didn't say anything about it. I just had that made. Of course, it was because I had some business cards made that looked like this. They probably won't focus either. And business cards / introductory cards.
Look at that lodge.
Yeah, look at that lodge. Isn't that nice?
That's beautiful.
Mark's going to have one of those for too long. And I got that.
And a bear.
On that side with my YouTube address.
It doesn't focus good, bud.
No, I know. It's because of the color. I actually messed with this yesterday to see if it would work. And I had trouble getting it blurry.
Can't read it.
What it says across the top is a name I've used for several years now. Just don't talk about it. Sort of my company name, if you will, and it's always been the Pursuit of Happiness Corporation or company or whatever. And I've been amazed that nobody's ever used that. I've searched and searched and searched. And as far as I know, I'm the only one that's got that on using that for like a company name, but I'm going to claim it as such. But then it's got Saturday Morning Shine. It's got the show address, and then it says Tennessee Bear on it too. So, but yeah, it's the color. I think it's the dark color.
I'm gonna need me one of them.
I'm gonna send you some. Let me see if I hold it against this, it'll show up better. I did get it to work yesterday once, but well, good thing I had two.
No.
There. That's at least better.
Nice. Roger.
Let me see if this side will, just for the heck of it. It might take it just a minute.
Still kind of fuzzy. Maybe it's just my eyes. There you go. There it is. I see it.
Anyway, that's my card. That's my new card.
You're sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it. I've been wanting to get these made for a long time. And I've been I found some places with my Adobe subscription that had some things I could use and put on it. And I don't know if you could see it or not because it didn't focus good, but the TP has my initials on it.
Let's see it.
Which is something else I've been doing for years.
Just like your logo that you put on everything.
Yeah, my touch mark. But anyway,
your touch mark.
This was a mighty fine piece right here, and it's also 54 caliber.
It's a mighty fine piece.
Mighty fine. It's a shooter now.
I've seen it deployed.
It's a little heavy, but that's the way they are. Anyway,
I've seen it do some things, as they would say on the Josie Wells. Watch him, Lige.
Ian says, nay, nay. He says, nay, nay. What are you doing? And then he says, now, yay, yay. So I guess the focus.
Nay, yay.
Focus. Oh, thank you, Carol, for putting that Dave thing in there. Trying to remember to do that too after Daystream Adventures by Dave. Thank you, Carol, for including those. Wild Adventures, New Water's Edge, New Animals, Rides, and Murder. I appreciate you doing that. I don't know if anybody else has got anything like that going on. If you do, by all means, get it to Carol or me, and we'll, one of us can, or maybe you can post it yourself. And I think everybody in here is a moderator, so pretty much. Or has powers of a moderator.
Rep to Dave's.
Do what?
Carol said, "Got to rep the
That's right. Rep the Daves. That's right. We had Dave Squares in here today, so that's good. There was
sometimes we have Trey.
Huh?
Sometimes we have Trey.
Yeah, that's true. We have had Trey. Trip Days is even better. Chuck said, great show, Tim and Mark, as usual, entertaining and informative. Well, thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Chuck.
I feel like I get to the point where I'm babbling too much. My shows tend to run long. You guys stick with me. I appreciate that. I can't get it all in an hour. I mean, I got too much. And then when I try to put it together,
too much knowledge that needs to be
too much up here that wants to get out. Full house of days. Yeah, if we had another 10, we'd have, Deuce Tims and Trip Days, and that's full house is hard to beat. Oh my goodness! So what you got planned for the day? The rest of the day? Yeah, you.
I think I'm going to town with my wife to go see some festival stuff going on.
Sure.
My son was supposed to come by here and drop his dogs off, but I haven't seen him yet.
While they go to the show or the festival.
Pardon?
While they go to the festival?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping my wife doesn't end up just babysitting.
Yeah, I hope not.
Or you either. And not. I'd kind of like to spin her on the dance floor.
Ian says you're going to the big town.
Which is just a big yard.
Oh, mercy. Anybody else got anything really exciting?
And it's cloudy and cool outside. It was supposed to be like 90 gazillion degrees.
Well, that'll be good as long as the wind don't start blowing 100 miles an hour.
Well, it's blowing a little bit, but not much.
I don't know what we're going to do. I'm waiting on a phone call from my daughter. And Brenda, if you're still in here, has she called you? Her daughter, Kelly had a show last night at someplace in Knoxville with her art. And the only thing I know is I asked her how it went because we were going to go. And Brenda, we decided it was just time we got down there and, it was just going to be too. I was still working on this. And what I got from her was she said, it was great. So I'm hoping that means she had a really good show and sold a bunch of stuff. But time she was going to call me, but when she sent me a note at 11 o'clock and said she just got home and unloaded and she was exhausted. So she's supposed to be calling me today. So after I get through with her, I'm probably going to call her and remind her, call me or send her a note. Watching you and F.E. Warren Air Show just started. Oh, really? Who is showing that, John? Is Cheyenne still going or Cheyenne over? Was it over last Sunday or this Sunday? I think it's this Sunday.
Sometimes I've seen the Golden Knights there. I've seen the Blue Angels. I've seen my buddy Russ Pollard, hooked up to a McGuire rig hanging out of a helicopter, 1,000 feet off the ground.
You know, I think
it's a pretty cool air show. Usually,
say that did they do it for the Cheyenne Frontier Days? And
it was always around Frontier Days.
Oh, okay. So a YouTuber's doing the who does Cheyenne police stuff. Okay.
Food bar.
That. That's just food bath, or maybe it's supposed to be food bar. Oh, it is food bar. You correct me.
It's food bar.
We won't tell everybody what that means. That's an adult thing. I've told people that. You pick up terms. I wasn't in the military, but you pick up terms like that when you work with a bunch of military guys. I'm going to sign off. Goodbye, everybody. It's been a great show.
Unknown bear and reporters.
All right, everybody. Uh-oh. Oh, I hit private chat. There. Anyway, so I'm going to give her a call, I think, see what she's doing. I don't know. I'd like to go somewhere and maybe try to get a couple of things framed. I've got a couple of pictures I want to get framed. I've got 3 more small Kodiak wildlife pictures I'd like to get framed someday. Probably can't afford to do them all at once, but Brenda hadn't heard from her either. Hey, Ian, you had an anniversary Thursday. Well, congratulations, belated, but happy anniversary. You can pass that on to your better half. And I'm using that term a little bit loosely, but
the best half, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Anyway, that's my cup. I might get a few more of them just pass out, but here's the funny.
You just sounded like Forrest Gump. That's my boat, my Jenny.
This is my cup and my Baronade.
This is my cup, my Jenny.
What's funny about it to me is when I was laying it out on the screen at their website, I wasn't sure I got everything lined up exactly where I wanted it. It's kind of hard to tell. So I thought, well, they'll fix that. Well, they didn't really fix it. The owl's a little bit towards the handle more than in the middle. And I think the bear, something about the bears, I thought I had part of that on top of the bear, but maybe not.
Oh, well.
Oh, well, guys, I'm going to get off here. I'm going to let Mark go see the music festival. And I'm going to call my daughter, and then we're going to see what we can get into today, guys.
See y'all.
Talk to you soon. I'm going to talk. Hey, before you go, I'm going to talk to Dave and Steve in the next day or two and see if they're got anything lined up yet for us.
For us for next weekend?
I hope so. I'm going to see. I'll find out. I'll let you know as soon as I get to talk to Dave.
It'll be a hoot.
I'm hoping it's next Saturday.
It's going to be a hoot.
It's going to be a hoot.
In honor of the owl spirit.
Yep.
It'll be a hoot.
Yep, it'll be a hoot or a screech.
Love you, buddy.
Right. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. We'll see y'all next time. Have a great week, everybody.